This is the impressions we are going to pour. We are going to focus on the interiors. As we see, we have 6 preparations there with very nice margins, very defined, very precise and very sharp. So we're going to focus on those when we pour it. So I have a blade. I'm going to cut the excess of silicone, that part there, without obviously touching the margins and the preparations. I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to show in a second why I cut that excess. So we want to go very slow. We don't want to get too close to the margins. Okay, perfect. Okay, very quick before we pour the impression, I would like to explain and show you concretely why I like to cut the silicone. I have 2 models. They are prepared. The bases are made. And you see from the profile here, the one on your right, I had cut the silicone properly and I had enough brown stone here. So I could keep the base on the same profile. The advantage is we are certain to have every part in place. We can visualize, and you see the brown and the white stone, they fit. There is no space, so which is much easier and much practical to work with compared to that model here. We didn't cut the silicone, and you see I had to stay away with the base, to stay 3-4 millimeters away from the brown base, just because we didn't cut the silicone. And now when I'm going to be working on it, I'm never sure to have those parts back in place. We have to try to see it, and from the side there, well, I'm really never certain. So instead of the detail, I think it is important. It is maybe the responsibility of the dentist or the technician to do, to cut the silicone. I would not suggest for the assistant to do it. So let's keep going. Let's pour the impression. We're going to spray some wetting agent, some debubbleizer, in order for the stone to really capture every detail inside the impression. We need to reduce the surface tension. So we spread the impression with the little bottle there from approximately, I'd keep it a distance, and I don't want to put too much. So just a few times like this. And we can use a little bit of air, just remove the excess. We're ready for the pour. As you see, I'm going to prepare the stone. I use a type 4 stone. A little advertisement maybe for our friends from GC. I like the FujiROCK. It is the stone of my choice, the one I've been using for years. It has the right strength, the right hardness, and the right expansion, and also the right color. We have, that's my 2 favorite ones. I use the brown, they call the pastel, I think, maybe, or the golden brown, yes, golden brown, and the white, the pure white. We can mix them, or we can use just the brown alone. Usually for the model work, I use a brown alone. So it is very close from, as you see, it's just a draw underneath my vibrator. So something important once in a while we need to do is go and mix it, because using the vibrator every day, if once in a while I don't come here and mix the stone a little bit, we might change the properties of that stone, because some of the components might go all the way down on a bucket, and some of the other components might just stay on the surface. So if I come with a cup and I just take the surface, the stone might be a little bit different. So once in a while I come with a dry spatula here, you see, and we mix it well like this. We need to respect the ratio between the powder and the water. For the FujiROCK GC, the company is suggesting 100 grams of powder for 20 milliliter of liquid. So I measure my cup. I check the weight of 1 cup like this. of powder. I know it's exactly 50 grams, so we have the half of it. But for that type of impression, I'm going to use 3 cups of that stone. So 3 cups, we need approximately 30 milliliter of water. I use distilled water. I like it a little bit better. It makes a smooth stone, just because there is no limestone. So I'm going to go all the way to 30. And just because it's a 6 teeth to focus on, I mean 6 preparations to focus on, there is nothing bad to go to maybe 31. I add a little bit of 30 and a half, as you see. I know I go a little bit over, just to give myself a little more time. So I put the water first. And in any mix, like investment or stone, we always need to put the water first. And then I'm going to have to put 3 cups of water, 3 cups of stone, 2 and 1 more. To be exact, I add a little bit. And we're going to mix it. We pre-mix it by hand. And then obviously we're going to use the vacuum mixer. That's a nice consistency, and it's supposed to be thick, because it's going to be a little smoother, a little more liquidy after the minute underneath the vacuum. So we clean the top. We don't want any stone. We want a perfect seal, perfect vacuum. And we mix it for 1 minute, or a little longer if you want. Something we can do, start vibrating and clean the blade like this. Make sure all the stone stays inside the bowl. The vibrator. I don't have to go very high. I can do a second or second speed, first or second. See, that's way too much. It's unnecessary. If you have to vibrate it as much as this, it means the stone is already setting. It's better to start over. This is the consistency we have, which is very nice, very creamy. It means we really respected the ratio. So I use the side of the corner there, or the vibrator, for the stone to flow. And we're going to play with the angulation of the impression there. A little faster, or a little slower. I'll go back like this. I want to accelerate, you see, and I can change it, and I can modify and compensate there and control the speed of the flow of the stone. That's very nice. It goes along, I don't need other spatula. I don't need to touch the silicone. Just changing the angulation with the right consistency and the right amount of wetting agent. We're good there. A little more stone, a little more weight. I put pressure on my hand just to vibrate a little more maybe. That's nice. And you see those two parts of silicone, they are not supported by the tray. What I should have done is maybe cut it. Cut those 2 parts, because if I vibrate it from here, I might distort a little bit. I might unglue the silicone from the tray, and maybe some stone is going to go in between, and then what we have is a distortion. And you see how much we can bend that tooth there? There's a tooth there. So then when we mount the models, we might be high in occlusion. So I want to put the vibration on the tray and not on that tooth there. I'm going to add a little bit more stone, just to go a little faster now. What I'd like to do now is to rinse the whole impression, and this is how I do. I have to go fast, obviously, and the stone is setting, so I take a paper towel and I want to empty everything as much as I can. I can put a little more vibration. And I do this because I rinse every little bit of wetting agent, of debubbilizer. Because stone mixed with debubbilizer makes a very weak stone. It's very hard to remove everything. So what I'm going to do is go on top of the sink and shake it. Turn it like this. I hold the handle up very well and I shake it. And what we should see, it's a thin coat. Look at the preparation, let's focus on those. And we can see that thin coat of stone, and that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So now the stone is setting, we have time, we're not going to panic, but we feed it again very slowly. I'll put some good pressure on it with my hand there, with my left hand. And we look at the preparation, we don't want to catch an air bubble. And we want to do fast without panicking. Number 7, the ladder out there, very slowly, we don't want to catch a bubble. I'm going to add a little more stone in order to have more weight. Okay, we're good. What I'm going to do is stop the vibrator, we don't need it anymore. I'm going to use a little spatula in order to, like I explained earlier, we don't want to put pressure on those parts, so we don't put the impression like this on the surface of the bench. We're going to use a little spatula just to support it, to avoid to put pressure on those areas. And we're going to add stone. We want to make the impression a little thicker, and the model a little thicker, in order to trim it to the right thickness. We don't want to catch any bubble there either. I like to put stone in my hand there. Huh? I'm right-handed, so I take exactly what I like and I put it like this, and I increase the thickness. Okay, we can just leave it like this for an hour and a half, not less than an hour. Huh? I think the manual says, in some stone the manual says 45 minutes, but I like it to leave an hour and a half. If it was an alginate impression, we would have to separate it after 60 minutes, not more. When we leave it overnight, the problem is the alginate gets very dry, it gets very difficult to separate, and we might even wear the stone. So here I could leave it like this, or what I could do is turn it. Some people turn it, or some people just leave it like this. So the consistency is very limited there, so what I'm going to do is wait a second. It's a little bit early to turn it, so what I'm going to do, we have just maybe 20 seconds, we can just take advantage of it and clean up the bowl and clean up the area. So you see, I take as much as I can from the bowl inside a paper towel, just to avoid rinsing everything in the sink. And then what we have is we have to call the plumber once a month. So I can just clean up as much as I can. There. The instruments at first. So what we do, we take some paper towel, just a coat, and I take some cold water. And I want a damp paper towel. The goal of it is to avoid feeding the stone with water, so we don't want it dry either, because what would happen is we would distort the impression, we would absorb the moisture of the stone. And we check last time, we don't want the impression to collapse. It's just right there, you know, it's right, it's perfect. You see, it's not going to collapse, and I don't have to put any pressure on it to turn it over. And you see, I can even, if I want to, I take a little bit of stone there, and make sure I have the last tooth. I can add some, and with my left hand I hold the tray, make sure it doesn't move. Huh? Right there. And that's all. And we leave it like this for an hour and a half. We're going to use water to break the seal. It's been a little over an hour, I think. Been a little over an hour, so I'm going to separate. I'm going to use water to break the seal, and a little knife. So I don't want to pull it from the handle only. I'm going to try to go a little bit from each side, a little bit from here, see I can put water. But now, very often, we might break the preparation or might break a tooth. So I have to go from the back, like this with the knife. Do the same thing the other side. And I go back to the water. And we can see here we have a nice defined margins everywhere, and we have no bubble anywhere. So we can dry it. We don't like to leave the stone wet like this. We can dry it, and we can start working on it.